Let's talk about 2017/18 Neymar and why he made absolutely zero sense that season. A season in which Neymar would reach new heights, dominating with Barcelona before making a big money move to PSG that would ultimately change the course of football forever. But before we dive into the 2017/18 season that Neymar had with PSG, we gotta take it back to spring of 2017. It's March 2017 and Neymar Jr. is still biding his trade at Barcelona, delivering one of the most jaw-dropping performances in Champions League history during the famous remontada against PSG, a side that Neymar would actually join the following season. Now Barcelona had lost the first leg 4-0, but in the second leg, Neymar almost single-handedly inspired this miraculous 6-1 comeback. A second leg comeback that would see him score 2 late goals in the game. A clinical free kick in like the 88th minute and then a cold-blooded penalty. Then he would also go on to assist Sergio Roberto in like the 95th minute with a peach of a ball into the box. And this movement and goal would send Barcelona through into the next stage of the competition. And this was an announcement to the whole world that Neymar was a guy that could dictate a game even whilst being in the same starting 11 as other superstars. He was going beyond just being Messi's sidekick. He was no longer Robin, he needed to be Batman. Or for the One Piece fans, he was no longer Zoro. You know, he wanted to become Luffy, the main character of this story. As Neymar would transfer from Barcelona to PSG for a world record fee of 222 million euros. With PSG forcing this move by paying his entire buyout clause like it's FIFA career mode. We ain't got time to wait. Negotiations need to get done now. Bring Neymar to this club. He needs to save us. And making this move, Neymar's motives were clear. He wanted to step out of the shadows of Messi. And a lot of people labelled him as egotistical for this move. You know, oh really, you couldn't hold it down at Barcelona and succeed a little bit more, get some more greatness in your career. You really wanted the limelight. And yes, that's what a great player needs to do. They need to carve their own legacy without being at the shackles of someone that is ultimately better. Neymar tried to do that, and this was the path that he was going to go down. And at just 25 years old, at the peak of his powers, it was PSG that snapped him up. And it honestly didn't take long for him to make impact, because in his first game with PSG, he would just show the dominance that he displayed at Barcelona, grabbing a goal and an assist against Guingamp in his first game. You know, I actually made a separate video talking about some of the best debuts in football history, and I talked about this performance in a bit more detail. Then after this game for the club, he would make his home debut for PSG in a game against Toulouse. And it was written in the prophecy that Neymar was not going to lose this game. Yeah, because he would grab 2 goals and 2 assists in a 6-2 victory. Yeah, he was making a mockery of this league 2 games in a performance that was so overwhelming he would get a 10 out of 10 rating, including a brilliant solo run finish type of goal and then a clever back heel as an assist in the game too. This looked like it was a sign for things to come, and PSG fans were in awe. And this form would just continue, because in that 2017/18 Ligue 1 campaign, Neymar was nothing short of unstoppable for PSG. And this was all despite missing the last few months of the season, with him grabbing 19 goals and 13 assists in just 20 games. And to be specific, that is 32 goal contributions in 20 Ligue 1 games. He just came into the French league and said, yeah, this league is nothing, bro. This is beginner mode on FIFA career mode. I'm making a road to glory right now. I'm playing on PlayStation. This is not a real game. With his goals ranging from solo run finishes, link up plays and free kicks, he was showing it all. And then you also saw him dip into his creative bag, you know, creating for the likes of Cavani up top. Throughout most of the season, he was the creative hub and fulcrum of this side. Whenever PSG were going forward, the ball was going through Neymar. And to just illustrate this dominance even more, picture a game against Dijon where PSG won 8-0. And it was January of 2018 where Neymar would score 4 goals and get 2 assists in the game as well. And I think what made Neymar so unplayable that season is how complete he was going forward, because honestly he could do it all, whether it was taking on his man or dipping into midfield to create from deep within the pitch. He could also finish by himself and take on players with ease. And then you also forget that Neymar was a 1v1 demon. You know, you go 1v1 in a wide area against Neymar and you most likely aren't coming out on top because he has acceleration to get past you. He has the skill to take you on 1v1. He can also cut in and shoot and finish. And then he's also underratedly good in the box. You know, when the ball's coming across the box, Neymar can pop up in positions and put it into the back of the net. We've seen it time and time again throughout his career, and in this first season with PSG, it was all on show. And despite Ligue 1 being Neymar's playground, the Champions League that year was Neymar's proving ground, the place where all eyes were on him whenever he started for PSG in this competition. And again, he would flourish, because this is why PSG bought him, to shine in Europe, to bring them silverware. And Neymar would absolutely deliver in the 2017/18 Champions League group stage, where he was arguably the competition's standout performer. And let's just quickly break down that Champions League journey that he had that year, with match day 1 being a 5-0 victory against Celtic, with Neymar scoring the opening on the night and getting his first European goal for PSG. He later set up another goal before the likes of Cavani and Mbappe joined in, and eventually PSG would leave this game winning 5-0. It was a dream start, and this monster trio looked like they were working together in perfect harmony. And by the next match day, it would get even better, with PSG winning 3-0 against Bayern Munich. With Neymar fit again after a minor knock in a previous game, he was back and balling. And within just 90 seconds of the game, Neymar had dribbled through the Bayern Munich defense before putting it on a plate for Dani Alves. Then in like the 63rd minute, Neymar would score a goal for himself in the game. And again, throughout the game, you would see Neymar creating opportunities for the likes of Mbappe, but mostly Cavani. Neymar ending the game with a goal and an assist before going into match week 3 against Anderlecht and winning 4-0, with Neymar scoring a cheeky free kick goal and then just dominating throughout the 90 minutes. After this match day 3 against Anderlecht, they would go to match week 4 and do it again against the same team, winning 5-0 with Neymar picking up another goal and being unfortunate not to score another free kick. Match day 5 would be home to PSG's peak performance during the group stages in a 7-1 win against Celtic. With the Scottish side actually going 1-0 up in the game, it was time for these PSG players to wake up. And it would be Neymar who would wake up and use his Conqueror's Haki to knock out the entirety of the Celtic lineup, scoring in the 9th minute and then the 22nd minute, turning the game around before later on assisting Cavani, who would score as well. PSG then ran up the score to 7-1 and then broke the record for having the most goals in a Champions League group stage, with 25 at this point in time. And even though in match week 6 he was kept quiet by Bayern Munich in a 3-1 loss, Neymar was marked tightly throughout the game, doubled up on, and they knew that if they stopped Neymar, they would stop PSG. But this game was besides the point, because PSG had already made it through and Neymar at this point in time was the best player in the world. But it was only going to get harder for Neymar to continue this reputation that he had gained, because in the round of 16, PSG would draw Real Madrid. A titanic clash would take place, with Neymar being the center of attention, because this is where he needed to make his mark known, taking on the Real Madrid side head to head without, the likes of Messi in your side. You needed to do it for your own team. With the first leg being on the 14th of February 2018, and Neymar did all that he could, being the creative spark for this PSG side and tormenting Real Madrid's defense. He would come out of this game with 13 successful dribbles, and in the 33rd minute, you would see a moment of brilliance take place. A moment of genius. With his back to goal, Neymar would produce a back heel into the path of Adrien Rabiot, and this would ultimately lead to PSG's opener on the night. Rabiot putting the ball in the back of the net after a bit of brilliance from Neymar. It was a bit of improvisation, you know, awareness and flair that Neymar just pulled out of his bag and said, you know what, I'ma lay it on a plate for Rabiot to eat up. And again, he would not stop there, providing 3 key passes in the game and just tormenting Real Madrid wherever he could. However, this would just not be enough, because in the game, you know, Real Madrid would win 3-1 and Mr. Inevitable Cristiano Ronaldo would score 2 on the night, with Neymar coming agonizingly close to scoring 1 for himself, but just not getting the goal that they needed. But still, going into a second leg, PSG fans had hope, because they knew that with Neymar's help, if everyone else was on point, PSG could forge a comeback. That's how good Neymar was individually in this game against Real Madrid. It looked like it was just him against Real Madrid. Genuine. But then disaster would strike, because on February 25th of 2018, Neymar would be hit with an injury. In a game against Marseille in the Ligue, Neymar would land awkwardly after a challenge. He had fractured a 5th metatarsal in his right foot and sprained his ankle. And the timing of this could not be worse, with PSG's season hung in the balance with a return leg looming in the distance. And Neymar would be ruled out of this second leg against Real Madrid. He would be out for around 2 or 3 months, and this was a crushing blow, because I and a lot of people know that before this moment, Neymar was at the absolute peak of his career and the peak of his powers, with many people that were watching football during this time thinking and believing that PSG were going to overturn, you know, this deficit that they had gone into a second leg against Real Madrid with. But ultimately they would lose 2-1 without the brilliance of Neymar on the pitch. But despite the heartbreak, you know, PSG would still dominate domestically, completing a domestic treble, but you know, it was bittersweet, ending the season with 28 goals and 16 assists in 30 games in all competitions. And even without a Champions League trophy, or without being fully healthy throughout the entirety of the campaign, the 2017/18 version of Neymar Jr. will never be forgotten. And it made absolutely no sense. It made 0 sense, because he was so good, yet won nothing. Nothing of substance, nothing that would put him in Ballon d'Or conversations or best of all time conversations. Yet a lot of us that were watching football week in and week out and watching Neymar week in and week out could tell that this was a guy that was at the peak of football. It was Neymar's misfortune that honestly robbed him of a Ballon d'Or, robbed him of big performances. He needed a second leg against Real Madrid and a performance that would shatter the hopes of the likes of Ronaldo. But Mr. Inevitable, he don't get injured. Ronaldo don't get injured like that. Messi, they don't really get injured. These are 2 outliers in football that will dominate and did dominate for an entire era. Anyone that tried to get close was just bound by their brilliance. That 2018 Ballon d'Or was won by Luka Modric, and you know, you'd see moments where Neymar had opportunities. He came back, played in the 2018 World Cup, he reached the quarterfinals, he had big moments in that competition, but again didn't reach the stages where you needed him before obviously getting injured. This season will never be forgotten, by me anyway. And if there's anyone that remembers this season and appreciates it as much as I do, make sure you leave a like and comment another season in football history that we can talk about in depth. Obviously I'm going to go back to the original video and look through the comments. We'll do one about some of them players too. But you guys tell me. Make sure you leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new to the channel, as we are on the road to 1 billion subscribers. This has been Jib Rules as always, and stay safe, stay blessed, and peace.